I'm Cheryl. I'm not the one recording it, but I am Cheryl. And I'm sorry, my computer that is provided by GAPS does not have a camera. So I will just be a voice tonight. But thank you for coming, and thank you to our translators for helping us out tonight. Thank you so much for that. And we have our panel of experts tonight. One of our panelists was not available because there's a medical emergency with the family, but we do have with us tonight Dana Hamilton and her son Reese. And Reese started with us as a 4th grader, I believe, and is now an 11th grader. So he's our picture of success. And Dana has another son, Karsten, who's also in the program, who's gone from 2nd grade to 9th grade.
Muy bien, nuevamente queremos dar una bienvenida a todos ustedes. Queremos agradecer también al grupo de intérpretes y traductores que nos están ayudando. Gracias al equipo del Centro de Bienvenida. Estamos aquí para poder hablar ahora en cuanto a la segunda plataforma, que es la plataforma PEAK para los grados 6º a 12º. Tenemos aquí como invitadas a 2 panelistas. Nuestra segunda panelista no pudo estar con nosotras, pero ahora vamos a invitar, tenemos aquí a la señora Dana Hamilton. Ella ha estado con nosotros por varios años. Junto a Dana se encuentra su hijo, Reese. Reese estuvo con nosotros desde 4º grado y ahora está en 11º. Entonces, él es la imagen del éxito que hemos podido tener con este programa. Junto a Reese también tiene su hermano Carson, que él estuvo desde que él ahora está en 2º grado, que nuevamente han estado con nosotros. Entonces vamos a continuar y vamos a invitarlas a Dana Hamilton, que por favor nos puedan ayudar esta tarde.
All right, so we are here to answer your parent questions. I know that navigation in PEAK has been kind of one of the big topics this week, at least with what I've been seeing from parents. So if you can give us some questions, we'll be happy to answer those. And I believe Dana and Reese have a shared screen that they can show you some things.
Muy bien, nuevamente antes de continuar, queremos recordarles a todos, si hay alguien que ocupa los servicios de interpretación, por favor de dejarnos saber ahora. De lo contrario, la reunión continuará en inglés. Si hay alguien que ocupa interpretación, pueden por favor indicarlo en los comentarios. Y si no, vamos a dejar que Dana Hamilton junto con su hijo Reese puedan compartir. Ellos tienen una pantalla con nuevamente algunas ayudas que nos van a estar dando.
All right, so it looks like our first question is about discussion posts and how those work if you're ahead or behind with your class.
So team, just wanted to check in. We can keep checking in, but it didn't seem like interpretation translation services were needed. We can make an announcement in about 5 minutes. Other than that, you can proceed in English.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'll let Reese answer this one for the discussion.
So for the discussions, if you're ahead, you usually just go ahead and post about the prompt, and then the teacher will grade it or respond and have you respond to a question that she asks, since you can't comment on anybody else's.
Okay, and then Cheryl, you want us to share the screen and show you?
Sure, that'd be great. Oh, I was waiting for translation, I forgot.
Yeah. Okay, so can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess we'll just talk everyone through this. First, what we'll do that's really helpful for us is to go to the class. So we're going to go to Reese's entrepreneurship class. So we'll click on that. And what we're going to talk about is scheduling, really. So what we do is we go down to course materials, and then we go down to student resources, and there will be a pacing guide. And this is what we use the whole time to keep the kids on target. So you click on that, and it'll open up an Excel spreadsheet. So you have to enable editing, and then you can fill in the correct dates. And once you've filled in the correct dates, down at the bottom, you click part 2, and it'll give you a calendar that you can print out that shows when everything is due. And it's not that everything is due on that exact date, but what we find is if the kids try to do it by that date, it keeps us on target so that we're done at the end, if that makes sense. Do you have anything to add on that? No. There was one other thing. Oh, I was going to explain that sometimes we switch it up. Last year, what we did was the boys like to do all of one subject in one day. So the whole week worth of math on Monday, and then the whole week's worth of English on Tuesday. That just seemed to work well for them. But again, you can move it all around. Cheryl, do you have anything else to? Oh, I was gonna, let's see.
Go ahead.
So I was also going to show that as a parent, what I do instead of signing into the parent account is I sign in as each of my students, and then I go to each class at least once a week, and I go to this topic or this tab at the top that says grades, and that's where I kind of keep tabs on how they're doing. So then you can scroll down and you can see what grade they've gotten on each assignment. And so if my kids have a 60% or less on an assignment or a quiz, then they get to redo it per mom. And so so that's how I keep tabs on them. And also the teachers often, this class doesn't, but often the teachers will put in comments as well about each item. And then the other thing we watch is progress, the tab at the top that's called progress. And let's see, oh, there it goes. What we watch is this minimum final grade, because what it shows you is if the teacher were to grade you out today, you would have a 12, or Reese would have a 12%. So it just kind of keeps us knowing that we need to get quite a bit farther than we are.
Dana, can you mention the current grade and what that means?
Oh, okay. And so to the left of that is the current grade. So what that means is that the assignments and the quizzes that Reese has completed so far, he has an average of a 97.5%. But to be graded out today, everything else that he hasn't completed would get a 0. And so that's how you get the minimum final versus the current grade, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So what else, as far as navigation, the kids use a lot at the top this little like speech bubble, because that's where teachers, that's where you see that things have been graded. That's where you see if a teacher has responded to a question you've asked. The bell means something's been graded. What else?
So there's a question that's come up about, how do you retake a quiz?
Oh,
So most quizzes in the summit courses, you'll have three attempts on the quizzes, but some of the other electives you have to ask the teacher for retakes on the quizzes.
yes, the teacher or Cheryl?
Cheryl, I guess, yeah.
So if you need a quiz retake or a unit test retake, you email either myself, Wendy, or Lois, and we will request another attempt for you, and then we'll let you know when that's ready and the student can take it again. So quizzes have up to 3 retakes, and unit tests you can have 2 retakes. Any graded assignment you can do as many times as you'd like until you get the grade that you want. All right. Do you want to show them how to find a document that they need to download?
Like an assignment?
An assignment, yes.
Yeah, Google.
So we'll go into global economics.
And then you scroll down to your unit. Go unit 2. And then it's like this one's 2.08. I know has a assignment I haven't done. So you just go into the class and then assignment.
Assessment? Or?
Assessment, yeah. And then there's the quiz and the graded assignment. So in the graded assignment, there should be a link. Yeah, under digital material, there's the Word document that you have to fill out. And so you just do that and save it. And then you just do it and then save it again as whatever 2.08. And then there's the upload link in the class, and you just put it there and hit upload, I guess.
Do you want to explain how it is on a Chromebook?
Oh yeah, so Chromebooks can be funky. You usually have to, since it's a Word document in a Google Docs program, you usually have to go into download. When you save it after you're done, you go into download and download as a doc, and then you'll be able to turn it in, because you can't turn in a Google Doc. The Google version, I guess.
Okay. All right. And we have another question. What is a reasonable amount of time for a teacher to respond to email, since this is the main source of communication? A reasonable time and what happens is not always the same. Typically, the teachers have been very, very prompt and good about that. However, because K-12 has exploded with enrollments this year, they're kind of struggling because the teachers have a lot more students than they have had, and they're trying to hire more teachers so that they can have a better student to teacher ratio, but that's going to take a little bit. So for now, I would say if you don't get a response back from a teacher in like 3 days, then let me know, and we'll try to find help for you another way. All right. So can we go back to the front of the course cards, please? So when you open your classes up, they're short and they have a little green band that says new. Some of you probably don't have these longer cards yet. And the way you get your cards to be longer like this is by turning in a graded assignment. Until you turn in something with points, your cards stay short and it shows that you've not started the class. So you have to turn in a graded assignment to get these cards to get longer. Then when they do get longer, perfect timing, you can flip them over and it shows you the progress bar. And the progress bar is super important because that lets you know where your student's at. So the long line that says today is where that student should be, and the gold bar is where the student actually is. So we like what we see in Summit US and Global because the student's ahead and he's completed 18.4% of the curriculum. In a Summit American, whatever that is, American Lit, a little bit behind, but it's a lit class and we know that a lot of times there's just a lot of reading in those. So those progress bars tend to move kind of jumpy because they sit still while you're reading, and then once you turn in a big assignment, it will make a big jump. So it's kind of scary the first couple of weeks that you don't see that moving much, but then it will start moving a lot. And we also know in our middle school and high school courses that the curriculum is weighted so that there are more points towards the end of the semester than there are at the beginning of the semester. So again, the progress bar moves a bit more slowly. The other things you can see on those cards when you flip them over, there's two things there. Those are the last two things that were graded and the grades that they received, so that you don't have to go to grades every time. And at the bottom, you can see there's an envelope and it's got the teacher's name. That's a direct link to the teacher's email. And up in the corner, the percentage is the average that student has in the class right now. So if they do 100% of the content, that would be their grade. If they do less than 100% of the content, that number would go down. And then the 1 month indicates how much time is left. And I don't know why that says 1 month. That's not quite true, because high school courses are on quarters, so those should actually be November 13th would be when those end. So I don't know, maybe they're just trying to get you to work faster, Reese.
It's usually incorrect. That how long you have left is almost never right.
Okay. Can you explain how the extra credit works? This can be, extra credit, Reese?
The extra credit, some of the teachers will have you do like check-ins every week, and they'll give you extra credit if you answer specific questions. Some just don't do it at all. It really depends on the teacher, and you can't really expect to get it.
And there have been times that the kids have had like a presentation to do, and they've kind of gone above and beyond, and so the teacher felt like they deserved extra for that, and so that's where they put that, was in the extra credit spot.
Okay. And a couple of questions that have come in. What are some extra resources if a student is struggling? First off, you would talk with the teacher of that class, and the teachers have office hours. They also sometimes do what are called live connects, where students can log in and see a teacher teaching the content. And then you can also set up like a one-on-one with that teacher to go over things. They also use Khan Academy, Khan Academy, a lot as a resource if you're just having trouble understanding something, because Khan sometimes can present it in a different way. Reese, Dana, do you have anything to add to that?
I was just going to add that you can kind of kill two birds with one stone with that, as far as when you contact your teacher to say, I'm having trouble with this math lesson. Do you have any help for me? That can count as a contact.
Correct. So it counts towards your 2 attendance emails that have to go each week. And that's a total of 2, not 2 to every teacher. So that's a great way to get your attendance in as well. So this is always a question that comes up. Why does it seem like the amount of work per day seems so much more than what they're doing at the brick and mortar school? Now, Reese has been what's called dual enrolled, which is not happening so much this year, but Reese takes a couple classes at the high school. Last year he did, and then he does his core courses online. So Reese, can you talk about the difference in the workload?
Yeah, I mean, it's just so different, like, versus the brick and mortar, because you have to read it all yourself, and it usually ends up taking longer because you procrastinate. But I mean, some things, if you really focus, you can just fly through it, and others that are like harder and you have to work through it just end up taking longer. I don't know.
So the program is a national program, and the curriculum is done to a national level. That's one of the big differences. Also, it's a complete curriculum, and it doesn't have the same amount of interrupted days. Like if you're at a school, there's assemblies and activities, and if you don't get through a lesson, then the teacher spends more time on that, so the curriculum is always being adjusted, where with this program it's a complete package and they expect you to get through all of it. And sometimes you don't get through all of it, but we want students to be able to work at a pace that helps them be successful. So if we need to extend a course, we can do that. Or if you have a student with some special needs, we can also make some adjustments to the amount of work that's expected, to the amount of assignments. My daughter is liking being able to work at her own pace, but she's currently on track to finish the semester in mid-November. What happens between when she finishes and when the semester ends? So if you have a student that's very motivated and they're on semesters, so to clarify, our middle schoolers, 6 through 8, are on semesters, and our high schoolers, 9 through 12 this year, are on quarters. So there's a very big difference. Semesters are 18 weeks and quarters are 9 weeks. So if you have a middle schooler and they are already, just barreling through the subject matter, we can add more classes, move them forward so that they are continuing to be challenged and progress. Typically, we finish a class and then we'll add another class as opposed to adding more, because we want to make sure they do get through their core subjects. Do you have tips for keeping students motivated? Dana.
Yeah, this gets a little bit harder as they get older, but especially with Karsten, what we do is just kind of the simple, if you get today's work done, You get video game time. You get more time on your phone. You know, those kind of things. Yeah. What else would you say we kind of do to?
I mean, sometimes like we'll, you know, if you get all your work done for this week, this weekend, you know, we can go to the beach or something.
Yeah,
versus working on the weekend.
So motivation is one of the really big problems with online because students are alone. There aren't really due dates. So the motivation level sometimes is, oh, I can do it later, I can do it later, I can do it later. And then it gets to be a week before the end of the semester and students have an entire class to get done. Now, you will have heard from our office if that's the case, because we do track progress and we do try to monitor where students are at with things. But it can be tough. But hopefully the fact that students can work at their own pace and they, you know, can challenge themselves in different ways will help with the motivation. Some of our students are with us because they have jobs and are earning money, and that's a motivator for them. And this program allows them to keep the job. So that can be a motivator as well.
Yeah, and then just, I suppose for us, just speaking from experience, when they get behind in this program, it's really hard to catch up and it's no fun at all. And so as the parent, I try to really keep up on the kids, and like that schedule I showed how to print out, I have the boys mark each time they finish something, and I highlight when the week, I highlight each week end or the week's end so that I can see that they have finished that week. And if they haven't, then there's going to be some work on the weekend because we know what it's like to get behind.
And I think there's different ways to keep your student interested. Dana mentioned before that the program is set up so that students can decide what they work on each day. So if you have a student who loves math, then you use that as a hook. So if you do an hour in your history class, then you can do the rest of the day on math. Or you can set it up so it's a block schedule. So you do the morning on one class and the afternoon on another class. Or you do a full day on a class, and then the next day you do another class, and the next day you do a different class. So you have a train of thought going and you're getting really organized. Just stay with that class and get it done. And you'll find that students will actually get more accomplished sometimes if they do a class for a full day. Now, the kicker to that is the class they don't like. And that's the one that gets shortchanged. And that's what, as the learning coach, as the parent, you have to make sure that every class is showing some progress. So they can't just decide not to do a class because they like the other classes better. All the classes do need to show progress. But how they do those is up to them and you as their learning coach. We're not getting many questions in. So we'll just keep talking until you give us some questions. With our middle schoolers, one of the big problems that we have had in years past is plagiarism, and knowing what plagiarism is. Googling something and then copying and pasting it, that would be considered plagiarism. And so we really need our middle school parents to make sure that your students understand what plagiarism is and how to use the internet as a source, but not a plagiarism site. Anything to add, Dana, Reese?
Yeah, I mean, I think in high school it becomes a lot less of an issue because like most of the assignments are a whole lot more of like they have to be your words, and like the questions aren't, you can't really copy and paste into their questions, I guess.
They're more personalized.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And often, since English is the boys' least favorite subject, often I'll have them, if they write a paper or an essay, I'll ask them to go over it, and then I'll go over it with them. And so, you know, something would jump out as a red flag if they had copied that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we do have a question. Will teachers add more video open sessions? I'm guessing that means like a live session where the teacher is teaching. So with our middle school courses, those should be occurring in the social study or in history and science for sure. In the high school courses, they did not get used much, and so some of the sections do no longer have those live sessions, is my understanding. But I can check on that for you. If I understand your question a little bit better, I'd be happy to check on that for you. Let's see. Have you tried any of the language electives, and how did those work without having classmates to talk with? So the language, Reese is giving the thumbs down. The language courses online, if you're starting a language and you intend to stay with us for a period of time, a longer period of time, you can take the language classes online and do okay. But if you are only with us for like a semester or a year and then you intend to go back to a brick and mortar, it does not mesh up well at all, so we would not recommend that. Or if your student has already started a language class, say at a high school, and you're with us this semester or this year and then plan to go back, I would not recommend it because, again, they don't mesh up. The two methods of teaching are very, very different, and it's not been very successful for students who have tried to do that. So again, if they want to start a language and stay with us for the 4 semesters for high school, that's great. It'll work fine, but to mix programs is very difficult. Reese, what would you add?
Yeah, it's just so different. Like I tried German, and just the talking to a computer and not have anybody to talk with was really hard for me. And then going to the school for Spanish really helped. Having people to talk with and like with my pronunciation and stuff really was different, and it was more motivating too, I guess.
Because with the online program, what you end up doing is you have to record yourself speaking, and then there's going to be a lag time, you know, a day or however long until the teacher gets back to you with what you could have done different. And so it's pretty hard to keep up with that.
Okay, so we have another, can you talk about the pacing guide again? And that is a very, very confusing thing for a lot of people. There's several different ways you can do it. So Dana, could you go back to the class home page? So under course materials, there's the pacing guide is under student resources. And that's an Excel spreadsheet that you fill in the dates. So you need your start date, your end date, and then you put in any dates that you want to make sure you're not scheduled to work. It'll automatically take the weekends out. But like if you want Thanksgiving and the day after Thanksgiving, you would put those dates in. If you want any holidays off, you put those down under the bottom where it says non-working days. And then it prints it out and takes all the assignments and gives you a schedule to follow. Now, a couple problems with that is it's a 90-day plan. We don't have 90 days in our semesters, and particularly for our high schoolers, when they're on quarters, they only have about 50 days. So it doesn't work real well. You would have to change your dates of your start date and your end date in order to get things to work well. So for the quarters, you'd have to make sure you're using those shortened dates. So like this semester or this quarter started on the 14th of September and will end on November 13th. So if I put those dates in and then holidays, it's going to print out for me or show me what I need to get done in that amount of time. Now, just beware that it can be rather daunting when you see that all in one place. So it's helpful, but not a great document in my opinion. A lot of people like it and some people don't like it so much. Another option is, Dana, can you go to the grading information that's right below where student resources was? So back to under course materials. And go to grading information. I like this sheet because when you open this one up, it shows you a couple different things. On this one, It shows you the way the class is graded and what counts for what percent, which I really like. So you know how things are weighted. And then it gives you everything that you're going to turn in that's worth points. So if you count up how many items there are, and then count backwards and divide that by the number of weeks you have left, it kind of gives you an idea of how many graded items you should be turning in each week. Okay. So that's a second place that you can look and get information to make sure that A, you're getting all the graded assignments turned in, and B, you can spread them out over the course of the time that you have there. I also like it because I like to see what percentage of the grade my quizzes are versus my discussion boards versus my graded assignments, so that I know where to spend my time. We have a lot of middle schoolers who like to just jump from quiz to quiz to quiz to quiz and not do any of the graded assignments, which I get because they like immediate gratification. However, you cannot pass these courses by just doing quizzes and tests. You must do some of the graded assignments in order to get enough points, which is kind of a bummer for them, but it's the way it is. So that's one of the places you can look for that. Let's see.
I was just going to say that the reason we like the other one is that it makes it easy for the kids to see. We decided that wasn't a very good class to do that one for, but it's easy for them to see how many things they need to do that week without really doing any calculations. If that like we've always kind of used this 90-day schedule thing. It just works well.
So if you adjust the pacing guide with the black on target line for tracking progress, change to correspond. So your black dot for pacing should correspond already with your beginning date and your ending date. So I think my answer is yes, the pacing guide and the tracking dot should coordinate as long as you're using the correct start date and end date.
So I pulled up a different class to show the things that are, because one has better things that are due. So like the first week of school ends on the 18th. So down here, so like I highlighted this this across here, and then the kids know that they have to do everything above that for this week. So if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's an easy way for us to, and then I have them check off on the next to, after I print this off, they check off next to it if it's done. And if it was a quiz or a unit test, they have to, or they don't have to, but I have them write what percent they got, just so that we know what needs to be done or redone.
So to be considered passing, students need to get at least a 60% or higher, and that directly correlates with what grade they have. So like a 60% is the lowest D, which makes it the lowest passing grade. For some families, they want 70% a C to be the lowest grade that they will accept. So you can set that expectation for your own student. But with the program, we always want the student's average grade to be 60% or higher, because if it's not, then they're not passing the class. And they either need to go back and redo things because they're not understanding, or maybe they need to slow down a little bit because they're rushing. But the whole goal is to learn and understand the content. So we talk a lot about percentages and grades and progress, but the whole option here, the whole goal is for your student to be learning and gaining knowledge from the content that they're going through. So if it needs to be slower, then that's what it needs to be. As long as they're putting in the time, we certainly will not balk at that. Could you open up a class, Dana, and go to the Help tab at the top? So when you go to the Help tab and it opens up, you look at the student help here. If you're struggling with how to do something or where to find something or any of those sorts of things, reading through these student help suggestions will be very, very helpful for you. Probably the most important one is down under assessments, and it talks about how to submit written assignments, discussion assignments, and quizzes and exams. And those seem to be what students struggle with the most when they're first starting the program, or those three things. So right there, you've got it at your fingertips of how to do those things. If you are having technology issues, things aren't loading, or you can't get something to open, next to the Help tab, if you go back to the purple navigation bar, is the service station. And the service station is a free help desk, basically, that you can either call an 800 number, or you can do a live chat, or you can write a ticket. And they can help you with any kind of technology issue you're having. If you're having a browser issue, they can help you know how to speed things up, or they can also help you with locating things within your class, how to download things, how to upload things, how to submit things. They can answer all those questions for you. So let me give you that number is 844-638-3533 is the 800 number for the service station. And phone calling is actually the fastest way to get your questions. Also, if you're working on your own personal laptop, they do give free downloads of Open Office. So if you don't have Word, they will give you that as a free download. If you're on a GAPS Chromebook, please do not try to download anything. Okay. Other questions? I'm seeing none. Can assignments and quizzes be redone anytime in the semester, quarter, or is there a deadline? Yes, anything can be redone at any time until the class closes. So it's recommended that you would redo assignments in the unit so that things are making sense and building on each other. But some students do that. They wait until the end and then they go back to see where they need more points, and they redo an item to get the number of points to get their grade up to what they want it to be. So yes, you can do that. When a student gets to a unit test, what do they need to do, Reese?
Study.
No, what do you unit test? You need them.
How do you get into your unit test?
Yeah, so you'll need a password. You have to have a password to enter into the quiz, and so you'll have to email Cheryl and get your password.
Right. So anytime a student needs a passcode, those come from the mentors, not from the teachers. So again, you can email us at albany.online@albany.k12.or.us, and whichever one of the three of us sees that first will get that passcode for you. All right. We want students to be able to work whenever they want to work. However, we do have a few guidelines, and that is after 10 o'clock, we will not give passcodes. All right. Other questions? Everything that you need for these classes should be embedded. So if you're looking for a book or something and you can't find it, please let us know. We'll help you with that. You shouldn't need to purchase anything. For our English classes, sometimes there are novels that need to be read, and those should be available through any public library or school library. They're usually very easily accessible books. Our passcode's available on holidays and weekends. Yes, ma'am. Anytime you need one, send it to that email address I just gave you, and one of us will get it for you. Again, that's albany.online@albany.k12.or.us. Oh, thank you for putting that up. All right, well, if no one has more questions, I guess we'll call it an evening. And a special thank you to Dana and Reese for being our experts tonight. Peak is is a challenge for people in the first week or so, but then once you catch on to it, it really is pretty easy to me. To me, I like this platform better than what the younger kid platform is, but I think it's because I work in this one more and I can see more in this one. So please, if you're having difficulties, let us know and we will be happy to work with you. We're hoping to get our office opened back up here shortly, and we would be able to meet with students and help you individually once we get that going and we get the approval to do that. Reese used to be our student ambassador and held his office hours there, and students could come in and help, but of course we can't do that this year. But thank you to Reese for doing that.
Well, thank you.
All right, if there's no more questions, we'll bid you adieu, and thank you so much for coming. And again, don't be shy. Email, phone, we'll help you if we can. Thanks so much.